Anaximenes. Air as the first principle. What is the universe made of? Is everything we see around us created from different substances? Or could all things come from a single fundamental reality? More than 2,500 years ago, a group of thinkers in the ancient Greek city of Miletus began asking questions like these. They were not satisfied with explanations based only on mythology, gods, or supernatural forces. Instead, they tried to understand nature through reason, observation, and logical explanation. Among these pioneering thinkers was Anaximenes of Miletus, who lived approximately between 585 and 525 BC. Anaximenes was the third major philosopher associated with the Milesian school, following Thales and Anaximander. And his answer to the question of the fundamental substance of the universe was remarkably simple: air. For Anaximenes, air was not merely something we breathe. Air was the fundamental substance from which everything else could arise. Who was Anaximenes? Anaximenes was a philosopher from Miletus, an important ancient Greek city on the coast of Ionia. He is traditionally described as a student or follower of Thales, although the exact historical relationship between the Milesian philosophers is not completely certain. What makes Anaximenes important is the way he continued the intellectual project begun by the Milesian philosophers. Thales had proposed water as the fundamental principle of reality. Anaximander went further and proposed the apeiron, an indefinite or boundless principle. Anaximenes returned to something more concrete. He proposed air as the fundamental substance of the universe. But he did not simply choose air because humans need it to breathe. His deeper question was, how can one basic substance become the enormous variety of things we see in nature? His answer was based on two processes: rarefaction and condensation. The main idea: air. According to Anaximenes, the universe had no simple beginning in the sense of being created from nothing. Instead, reality consisted fundamentally of air. Air was infinite, eternal, and capable of transforming into different forms. Through rarefaction or expansion, air becomes thinner and lighter. Through condensation or compression, air becomes denser and heavier. And according to Anaximenes, these changes could explain the formation of the different things in the universe. In this way, he attempted to explain the enormous diversity of nature using one fundamental substance. Air could become cloud. Cloud could become water. Water could become earth. And from increasingly dense forms, stones and other solid materials could emerge. The important point here is not whether this ancient physical theory is scientifically correct by modern standards. It clearly is not. What is important is the method of explanation. Anaximenes was asking, can we explain the natural world by identifying a basic substance and then describing how changes in that substance produce different forms? That was a major step in the development of natural philosophy: rarefaction and condensation. Let us look more closely at Anaximenes' theory. Imagine air becoming increasingly compressed. As air becomes denser, according to his theory, it passes through different stages. Air can become cloud. Cloud can become water. Water can become earth. Earth can become stones and increasingly dense forms of matter. This process is called condensation. The opposite process is rarefaction. When air becomes increasingly rarefied, it becomes lighter and thinner. Anaximenes associated this process with heat and lightness. So we have two opposing processes: rarefaction, expansion, increasing heat and lightness; condensation, compression, increasing coldness and heaviness. Through these processes, Anaximenes believed that the diversity of the natural world could be explained. One substance, different degrees of density, different forms of reality. This was a surprisingly systematic attempt to understand nature. Why air? But why did Anaximenes choose air? His answer appears to have been connected with something very familiar to human experience: breathing and life. We breathe air, and without breathing, life cannot continue. Anaximenes therefore connected air with the principle of life itself. He saw an analogy between the human being and the cosmos. Just as the breath within us gives us life and holds us together, air could be understood as the principle that sustains the entire universe. This idea is captured in the famous statement associated with Anaximenes. Just as our soul, which is air, holds us together, so does air embrace the whole universe and hold it together. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of his philosophy. Air was simultaneously connected with life, soul, nature, and the structure of the cosmos. What is air? Of course, when Anaximenes talked about air, we should not imagine that he meant exactly the same thing that modern science means by atmospheric air. Modern science understands air as a mixture of gases, primarily nitrogen and oxygen, along with smaller amounts of other gases. Anaximenes had no modern chemistry. For him, air was a more fundamental and philosophical concept. It was something that was present everywhere. It had no obvious fixed shape or color. It could move. It could become wind, cloud, mist, or water. And because it was associated with breathing and life, air seemed to provide a natural bridge between living beings and the universe itself. In this sense, Anaximenes was searching for a substance that could explain both change and unity. Everything appears different, but perhaps everything has the same underlying origin, explaining natural phenomena. Another important feature of Anaximenes' philosophy is his attempt to explain natural phenomena without relying primarily on mythology. For ancient people, events such as storms, thunder, lightning, rain, and celestial phenomena were often interpreted through stories about gods and supernatural powers. Anaximenes tried to find natural causes. For example, wind could be understood as moving air. Clouds could result from changes in the density of air. Rain could occur when clouds became sufficiently condensed. Thunder and lightning could be connected with physical processes involving clouds and air. Some of his explanations were incorrect by modern scientific standards. But the crucial point is that he was looking for natural mechanisms. Instead of simply saying, "A god caused the storm," the philosopher asks, "What happens in nature that produces the storm?" That change in the style of questioning was enormously important. The importance of reason and observation. Anaximenes belonged to a remarkable intellectual movement. The Milesian philosophers were among the earliest thinkers in the Western philosophical tradition to systematically search for explanations of nature based on reason. They were beginning to move from mythos toward logos. In other words, they were moving from traditional mythological narratives toward rational explanations and arguments. Anaximenes did not possess laboratories, telescopes, microscopes, or modern scientific instruments. Yet, he observed the world around him. He watched clouds. He experienced wind. He observed rain. He understood that water could freeze, flow, evaporate, and change its form. He experienced the relationship between breathing and life. From these observations, he attempted to construct a general theory of reality. This is what makes his work historically significant. The importance and influence of his philosophy. Anaximenes continued the Milesian tradition of explaining nature through a single fundamental substance. But he also introduced an important idea. Qualitative differences can arise from quantitative changes. In simpler terms, something can become a different kind of thing because its basic substance becomes more or less concentrated. This idea would influence later philosophical attempts to understand change and transformation. His concept of air as the archer, or first principle, also became significant in the history of ancient philosophy. Later, thinkers continued to ask similar questions. What is the fundamental reality? What lies beneath the changing appearances of the world? How can one reality produce many different things? And how can we explain change without simply appealing to mythology? These questions became central to Greek philosophy. Anaximenes therefore stands as an important link between the earliest natural philosophers and the more developed philosophical systems that came later. Anaximenes and the Stoics. His influence can also be seen in later ideas about pneuma, particularly among the Stoics. The Stoics developed a sophisticated concept of pneuma, often translated as breath or spirit, which played an important role in their understanding of life, nature, and the cosmos. We should not say that Stoicism simply copied Anaximenes. The Stoic system was far more complex. But there is an interesting intellectual connection. The idea that something resembling breath or air could serve as a vital and organizing principle of nature had a long philosophical life. Anaximenes was therefore part of a tradition that continued to ask how the cosmos could be understood as an ordered and interconnected whole. A brief comparison with Thales and Anaximander. To understand Anaximenes better, it helps to compare him with the other great Milesians. Thales said, "Water." For Thales, water was the fundamental principle. Anaximander said, "The apeiron." For Anaximander, the origin of things was something indefinite, boundless, and not directly identifiable with an ordinary physical substance. Anaximenes said, "Air." He returned to a recognizable natural substance, but gave it a mechanism for producing diversity, rarefaction, and condensation. So we can see a fascinating progression. The Milesian philosophers were not simply giving different answers. They were developing a common question. What is the underlying principle of reality? The legacy of Anaximenes. Anaximenes' physical theory may seem primitive to us today, but judging him only by modern scientific standards would miss the real importance of his contribution. He lived more than 2,500 years before modern physics and chemistry. His greatest contribution was not discovering the correct chemical composition of the universe. It was helping establish a new way of thinking. He showed that nature could be investigated as a system. He searched for a single underlying principle. He tried to explain change through identifiable processes, and he looked for natural causes rather than supernatural explanations. These are important foundations of philosophical and scientific thinking. So, who was Anaximenes? He was a philosopher of Miletus who believed that air was the fundamental substance of the universe. He argued that the diversity of the world could emerge from changes in the density of air through rarefaction and condensation. He connected air with life, breath, and the soul. He tried to explain wind, clouds, rain, thunder, lightning, and other natural phenomena through natural processes. And most importantly, he continued the Milesian attempt to understand the universe through reason, observation, and the search for a fundamental principle. Today, we know that the universe is far more complex than Anaximenes imagined. We know that air is not the fundamental substance of reality. We know that matter is composed of atoms and subatomic particles, and that the cosmos is governed by physical laws that Anaximenes could never have known. But his question remains remarkably modern. What is everything ultimately made of? And perhaps that is the true legacy of Anaximenes. He did not give us the final answer. He helped teach humanity how to ask the question. From water to the boundless to air. The philosophers of Miletus were beginning a journey that would eventually lead toward metaphysics, physics, cosmology, and science. And at the heart of Anaximenes' vision was one simple idea. Everything may appear different, yet beneath that diversity, there may be a single reality connecting it all. Air was Anaximenes' answer, but his greatest legacy was the search itself. This is the story of Anaximenes, one of the pioneers of rational thought and one of the early thinkers who helped humanity look at nature not as a mystery, ruled only by gods, but as a reality that could be questioned, observed, and understood. Using the memory map method, one of the rapid learning techniques, these visual and auditory contents that we have prepared were created to help you learn faster. Don't forget to add a screenshot of the philosopher memory maps to your archive. Stay with love and never lose your curiosity. This is LogosNet TV Global, exploring the history of ideas, from the ancient world to the modern age.